Hi, and welcome to Atlanta News First Behind the Investigation. I'm investigative reporter Andy Perotti. Joining me now is Chief Investigative Reporter Brendan Keefe. How you doing, Brendan?
Good to be here, Andy.
So tonight's investigation that you're going to be taking us behind the curtain is really a problem that sounds like it's about to get a lot worse.
Yeah, the way I would explain this story is it's sort of like when police were on horseback and the bad guys were driving early cars. We're in that stage right now with gasoline-powered police cars and very fast electric vehicles. And sure, we all know about electric Porsches and Audis and BMWs and Teslas. They've kind of been a luxury product. But now there are Kias and Hyundais that are actually faster than the fastest police car that the Georgia State Patrol has. And if a bad guy's behind the wheel, they're going to have an edge over the police who are trying to stop them.
Atlanta police chase suspected shooters near Georgia Tech.
Going 70 plus.
The suspects driving an electric car.
That's negative. Continuing over McDaniel.
The Tesla quickly outruns the gas-powered police cars, disappearing into the 21st century. If not for the police helicopter and impact with another car,
You just gain control. We gain control.
the suspects might have gotten away.
When seconds count, the police are minutes away. This shortens that time, doesn't it?
Indeed, substantially.
Lieutenant Jessica Howard is putting the GT in GTPD,
This vehicle would keep up with just about anything on the road.
Anything, yeah.
driving the first electric patrol car for Georgia Tech police.
Have you ever mashed the throttle?
I have.
Tell me what it's like.
I will say it goes from 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds.
It's very fast.
It's extremely fast.
Police departments across the nation are falling behind when chasing electric vehicles.
The driver of a stolen Tesla out of Vegas.
The instant power of the electric motors is no match for the fastest internal combustion engine patrol cars.
This standard production car is twice as fast as the most popular police pursuit vehicle. It even has a higher top speed. Obeying all the laws for demonstration purposes, let's mash the pedals at the same time. 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. It's no contest, leaving most police pursuit vehicles in the dust. This car that can outrun a state trooper, is it a Porsche? Maybe a Tesla? No, it's a Kia EV.
The Georgia State Patrol is sticking with its gasoline-powered engines and slower patrol cars. The Georgia State Patrol told us our agency did look into EV patrol cars for the fleet, but they did not meet the needs of the agency. Not Georgia Tech. Its police department is outfitting 3 electric patrol cars, turning the stock Mustang Mach-E GT into the police car of tomorrow. Under the hood, state-of-the-art electronics, fueling a car that is both mean and green.
As people buy more electric vehicles, those vehicles are going to be more capable than the typical internal combustion engine police car.
No, absolutely.
Georgia Tech police patrol only a 3-mile radius on an urban campus. Environmental concerns and thousands in fuel savings are driving the switch to electric. But Lieutenant Howard says officers already prefer the power of the new EVs.
If you were in an agency that had to do highway pursuits, is this the vehicle you'd want?
I believe this would be a great vehicle to have if you're engaged in highway pursuits. Again, just because of the speed, just because how quickly it can get to that speed, this vehicle would definitely be my go-to if I was doing highway pursuits.
Brendan, that was eye-opening. So in your opinion, based on your reporting, is electric vehicles going to be the future of policing?
You know, it isn't my opinion. It's basic analysis. It has to be, because there's only 2 possibilities. In fact, one of the people commenting on our story said, why are we entering an arms race to have faster police cars? Shouldn't we limit the acceleration of electric vehicles? I don't see that happening because we live in a free society and there's a market demand for these faster vehicles. These electric vehicles have such torque and such power that it's really no contest, as you saw in my demonstration with the Kia versus what would be a typical patrol car behind them. So yeah, I mean, at some point, Once you get past some of the limitations, what are the limitations? Range. That Mach-E has about 250 miles of range. Well, that's great for Georgia Tech. They have a 3-mile radius
Right.
of a campus. But what about a state patrol? Georgia State Patrol might say 250 miles of range isn't enough. And what do you do when the car is only half charged? You can't pull over at a gas station in the middle of a pursuit. You've got to pull up to a charging station. But the technology is advancing so rapidly, there's no question that there are at least going to be hybrid or electric vehicles alongside the internal combustion engine police cars. There has to be. Otherwise, the police are just never going to be able to catch up with these things.
So, what is the response that you've received so far from law enforcement agencies, including Georgia Tech and Highway Patrol?
Yeah, well, first, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was very helpful in our story. It's not often in investigations we partner with someone. We don't like to do favors. In this case, we didn't. But what we did do is sort of tell their side of the story to a degree. But they're far more interested in telling the story about the environmental benefits of these vehicles. Georgia Tech is committed to Electrify GT, which is a plan to basically be emissions neutral by 2050. This is part of that plan. And then it's also a huge taxpayer savings. But when you get an officer behind the wheel, you can't help but to see there's a little smile on their face when they're driving.
Oh,
these
yeah, she
EVs.
was smiling.
I
For
mean,
sure.
this you touch the pedal and all you have to do is think accelerate, and these cars accelerate. When you get out of an EV and back into, in this case, this lieutenant has an Explorer. She said she mashes the pedal in that and she just waits what feels like 30 seconds for the car to catch up with her thinking. So that's Georgia Tech. They're really interested in the sustainability, and for, absolutely no question. Georgia State Patrol, and this is interesting little behind the investigation. Georgia State Patrol had initially agreed in writing to do a demo with us at the
I
Georgia
remember
Public
that.
Safety Training
Yeah, I
Center.
remember you talking about that.
Yeah, we had set it up. It was basically all set up. It was just a matter of which day we were going to shoot at the track at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. Gypstick, as they call it, was cooperating in part because Georgia State Patrol had already agreed to do this. But once certain people within the Georgia State Patrol learned that this had already been approved and that I, as an investigative reporter, was going to be involved based on my previous investigations, I can only assume, they pulled out. And then Gypstick just frankly stopped talking to me about it. There clearly was a concern. I can't get into their heads, but there clearly was a concern that this wasn't going to make the Georgia State Patrol look good if we were demoing how a Kia could outrun them, even with a trained officer behind the wheel. And so they pulled out of the whole thing, and they just gave us a statement saying we have no interest in electric vehicles, essentially.
Well, that sort of segues into my next question. Are you getting any pushback at all from sort of showing, hey, here's how criminals can outrun police officers, including Georgia Highway Patrol? Are you getting any pushback?
Of course. I mean, look, already people have commented on this story saying, why are you showing people how to get away with these things? Also, some people have brought up the so-called Kia boys, which is, the carjacking, not really carjacking, burglary, if you will, or auto theft using these USB thumb drives. Those do not apply to the Kia or Hyundai electric vehicles. These are all newer vehicles that that aren't susceptible to that kind of theft. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you don't need a news station to tell you how capable these electric vehicles are. Anybody who owns one of these at a stoplight, you've seen them. They'll pull up next to a normally aspirated internal combustion Porsche, and a Tesla Model 3 will blow the doors off of a Porsche. And these are orders of magnitude increases in performance. And even around the corners, I mean, these are lower center of gravity vehicles. You did an investigation showing the problem with Teslas with normal guardrails because there's such a low center of gravity with those battery packs. But that does actually prevent rollover. Also makes the vehicle far more heavy. So they really are apples and oranges in comparing them. But imagine one of the oranges is 10 times faster than the apple.
What prompted you to look into this? I know you cover criminal justice in general, but was there a story that you saw, or just sort of like, hey, what would be the difference in speed or at least acceleration? What sort of prompted you into doing it?
Yeah, first I got an EV6 GT, a Kia. That's the one in the story. As soon as I got behind the wheel of it test driving, I literally giggled. I've driven all kinds of performance vehicles. I've been in NASCAR vehicles going around the track as a passenger. I'd been in an F-16 with the Air Force Thunderbirds as a reporter. pulling 9 Gs. I have not felt anything like the acceleration that I felt in this Kia.
So you own one of these?
I own the Kia
Oh,
EV6
okay.
GT in the story. I'll file it with my expense report. It probably won't get approved, but I can't put in the gas bill because there is none. But yeah, it really got my attention. And then I saw a news release from Chevrolet touting its Blazer. Chevrolet is actually making a Blazer that's electric. That's a police pursuit vehicle. I called our upfitter who upfits our news vehicles, who upfitted my news vehicle with sort of cages and stuff and drawers. And I said, have you seen any of these come through? And they said, no, but we do have Georgia Tech here with these Mustang Mach-E GTs. Would you like to come by? That's how I got into the story. And then one thing led to another. The biggest thing I'll say, Andy, is that you and I love to do stories that no one's seen before. No one has done this story. There have been some YouTubers who've done some drag races, on drag strips against police cars. But really, other than that, no one's told the story of, hey, law enforcement better take notice, because this is no longer a question of if, it's now a question of when they're going to get outrun by an electric Kia or electric Hyundai or electric Tesla.
Yeah, that demonstration you did in the story was so compelling to see the difference in acceleration. Brendan, I think this is a story that we're just now starting to see, and you started it. Thank you again for sharing the background information of why you ended up turning this story. And you can watch more of Brendan's investigations on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, and streaming Atlanta News First Plus. We'll see you next time.